So how did you go about from the very beginning then, working out what the solo album was going to be?
Well, it kind of happened piece by piece, because I think there was a point at the end of the Dream Show, and I was just thinking of jacking everything in. I mean, just, okay, that's me done. And I think I was still kind of...
Did you start you started smoking again then, had you?
Gradually, but I was so exhausted. I mean, touring's knackering when you're not in your 20s anymore. It's very tiring. And and with all the illness and all that, and the doctors and the irritations, I was exhausted, and I was really at a point where I was just, there was no offing of a deal in sight, and I just thought, you know what, I can't go back, but it's just hard work, and I was like having these fantasies of just staying in France and opening up a flower shop, or working with plants, just anything that, I didn't have to deal with the bullshit side of what I love doing. And I seemed to be seeing more and more of the bullshit that I didn't like, that was so really felt like it was grinding me down. So I was kind of in this flux, and then kind of just before that, I'd done when I was really ill, the Basement Jacks sent me a song, some music, and they said, "Are you interested?" And I thought, yeah, I like this piece of music. They sent me other stuff, but I picked one thing, and I thought, yeah, I like this. Just worked it up as a kind of demo at home in France, and sent it to them, and was expecting to be invited to London to put the vocals down proper. And they said, "Oh no, well, that's fine, we'll work with that." And they released that, and I thought, oh, and then kind of when I was kind of thinking, oh well, maybe this is another direction to go, of just like not necessarily being in it. It's almost like from being an actor to being being behind the scenes. And I thought, well, maybe that's the sanest way to go. And then a couple of tracks arrived when I was in this kind of state of flux and exhaustion, and they were what were going to be Loveless and Into a Swan, the two pieces of music. And I thought Loveless was first. I thought...
So when you say they arrived, what do you mean they arrived?
Well, they came via Polydor, because I think we were having talks, and I knew things weren't going anywhere, because they were trying to get me to do one of those albums where, oh, let's get Marilyn Manson involved and blah, blah, blah. And I was going, no,
the cartoon Siouxsie.
No, go away, and I just knew I wasn't interested in that. So, but anyway, we made it clear that, well, Siouxsie really liked what she did with the Basement Jacks. And so these two pieces of music arrived, and they were from someone called Cookie. And there was lots of other bits of music, but I honed in on Loveless. And I got quite excited, and I thought, oh, maybe I can be a writer. And at that time, to me, that was how I was going to survive and be over 20, working in the music business. That to me was a logical, quite freeing thing to do. Nobody has to see my ugly mug anymore. And so... I really loved the music, so I wrote the words and I put down the vocals, and they told me that it was going to be for like a girl group like the Sugar Babes. And so I kind of like and I quite like, I do like my pop music, I like good pop music. I do like it. I like it with an edge, but I also like it just undiluted good pop. So I wrote that, and I was really pleased with it, and I was like really looking forward to hearing like a Sugar Babes type rendition of it. And they loved the song, and they said, oh yeah, there's something else, and they sent me some more bits of music, and then I found what was going to be Into a Swan, and I thought, wow, this is great. And so I did the same, thinking this is what I was going to be writing for. And when I finished Into a Swan, I thought, fuck, this is too good to give to anyone. But I thought, no, I'm not going there. Okay, I'll give it to them and let's see what they do with it. So after a while, they actually went into the studio with this artiste or artistes. I can't remember who it was, and they ended up, they must. I don't know how much they spent. They spent money, obviously. It's, how these artists that just come along, they throw money at it, put them in the studio. And then I heard the versions, and they ended up rejecting the new artist and preferring the demos. And then the conversation of like, oh well, maybe there's a deal in the offing. And I at first I thought, oh shit, just when I thought I got out of that, Wurlitzer thing, there I am getting pulled back in. Gravity was pulling me back in. I was like fighting the black hole as fast as I could. But by then I'd been really seduced by me recording Into a Swan, and then we were talking amongst ourselves, me and Doug. Doug's someone that works, he's in the shadows, doing the business stuff. And around that time, I think Doug bumped into John Williams, who had his own label within Universal. And it was great because John Williams A&R'd, I think, Peep Show for the Banshees and Boomerang for the Creatures, and I just remembered him, getting on with him as one of the only A&R men that I was just going to ask,
actually, the idea of an A&R man for Siouxsie and the Banshees.
No. Well, this was '88, so by then, and he was the only one that didn't rub us up the wrong way. He just rubbed us the right way.
How did he manage that?
I just kept out the way. No, he was very supportive, actually. And he wasn't someone we had to fight or ban from the studio. And he'll say, well, who would you, with any material that you've got, who would you like to produce you? And unusually, I really loved the new Robert Plant album, Mighty Rearranger. I kind of caught Robert Plant doing some tracks on, I think it was a Jules Holland show, and I was in France, and I just thought, wow, I just thought it was great. And so I got the record, and I just thought it's a great record, and it wasn't something I'd normally go out and buy, but I got hold of it, and I really liked the production, and I saw it was by someone I'd never heard of, so I thought, well, that's good.
You like that, yeah?
Yeah. And it was someone called Steve Evans. And of course,
notoriously, you've had many, many, many troubles with quite significant name producers over the years. So choosing a producer for this one was quite a
hairy, yeah. And like kind of thinking, oh God, what baggage are they going to have, coming to something with me? Because there had been a few problems in the past with perceptions of what I should be doing or how they perceived what I was doing. So anyway, we mentioned this to John Williams that, that we've got some stuff we'd like to try, and so went to meet them. I think this would be this time last year. We're talking last June. I think it was May or June.
June 2006.
Yes, May or June 2006. John Williams drove us up there, met Steve and talked about stuff.
What's that like, that moment when you meet people that you probably may or may not work with, and they, like you say, they come into the room with a perception of what they think you are that you're probably not at all.
Well, what was good was he didn't talk about anything with what he thought I should be doing. We just talked about what we liked, and we seemed to have kind of concur with a few things of what we were liking at that time. I think I was really liking the first Arcade Fire album, and of course I said, and I thought the production on Mighty Rearranger was brilliant, and so we're just talking about various things, and I was just going to see the environment, because I would be at some point be going up to that studio and just seeing if, just being in the same room with him, I didn't want to strangle him, which, does happen.
I've heard.
Does happen. So no, I could bear being in a room with him. So that was a good thing.